at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in Mid-City, welcome to the Tuesday edition of Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff along with Jimmy Ott. Jordan Kitchen's back in the studio, and glad that you are with us here today. We got Andy Isco with us at the bottom of the hour. Another 2-0 week for Andy on our Sunday Football Sunday show. And we'll do first class, second class, no class with a big college football lean to it this week, as you might expect. Jimmy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Charlie.
I was all ready to talk about the Monday night game, and we'll do that a little bit with the Bills beating the Jets last night. But just to hear in the last hour and a half or so, the Jets have made a trade for Devontae Adams, who I would imagine is going to have a miraculous recovery from his hamstring injury. It's a conditional third-round pick that could move up to a second-round pick if he's first or second-team All-Pro, or if the Jets make the AFC Championship game or Super Bowl and he is on the active roster. But you watched last night's game. You watched Aaron Rodgers get knocked around. You watched the wind mess with the kickers a little bit. You watch the flags drop. If you missed a flag, just hang around for two more plays. You'll get another flag, no problem. They're really, really increasing my enjoyment of the game by calling it so incredibly close to the letter of every law. But it's not the only game I watched like that this weekend. So you watch the Jets. Jets look like they're one player away from being a contender to you, either what you saw last night or what you saw before that?
No, they might be one player away from making it to the playoffs.
The playoffs are a reasonable goal. I agree. But making a run in the playoffs, But making a run in the playoffs, I'd be surprised.
No, I mean, you think Rodgers is a finished product for this year?
No, I
think he's still shaking off the rust, getting used to his supporting cast. He didn't play with him last year.
I think he's still shaking off the rust is part of it. I think that he is a 40-year-old coming off of a major injury is another part of it. I think that he's in an organization where he's been given an inordinate amount of power, but I don't know how much he's really engaged in it. You know, I ordinarily kind of, brush past most of the national stuff when they talk about the Jets because it's so overblown, and it's like the Knicks. Okay, I got to hear about the Knicks. The Knicks haven't won anything since the '70s. I got to hear about the Jets. The Jets haven't won anything since Namath was there. So I usually blow past it, but I think it was Dominic Foxworthy that said this morning. He said, "Listen, the Jets wanted to recreate what the Broncos had with Peyton Manning and what the Buccaneers had with Tom Brady. Great quarterbacks at the end of their careers that had one more run left in them. Manning went to Denver and made it work. He was all in. He moved there. He was working with all of his guys. He got into the culture of it, and it worked. Brady went down in the middle of COVID and got the guys together on some high school field because that was all that they had available to them, was in violation of any number of NFL rules at the time, and said, I don't care. And I'm going to get this group together. I'm going to bring my guys in. I'm going to take the guys that are there, and I'm going to, immerse myself into their culture, create my own culture, and we're going to win. And they did. And Rodgers went to Egypt in the offseason. And I'm sorry, but that's a fair criticism. Okay, you're 40 years old. You got a 1, maybe a 2-year window. You got to give it everything you got. And Rodgers I'm not in that building every day. I don't know. He can still play, but I don't think he's all in.
Tom Brady's recruiting impactful guys off the street that cost him nothing.
Yeah.
Gronk, Fournette, Antonio Brown. They gave up no assets to get those guys.
Right.
Rodgers says, hey, give up the assets. I mean,
he's not going to be around for a while, I
know, but this guy's this guy's impossible to like. This guy is a great quarterback for many, many years, and he might be his own worst enemy as a leader. As far as when you're trying to, why have you won more than one Super Bowl? So the Jets haven't won anything. I mean, you go to 2 conference championship games. I mean, I don't think that's nothing. I mean, when you finish in the top 4 of the 32-team league, that's pretty good.
It's not.
They
quite
did that twice under Parcells.
It's not quite nothing, but Parcells is the only guy to get out of there in the last 50 years with a winning record.
Okay, well, he was the coach.
Yeah, he was.
He was. Rodgers is the coach now, and that's a
the
problem.
And the GM.
You think under Parcells, their only success, which Woody Johnson was the owner. You think this is the same approach, letting the aging quarterback who's disinterested in the offseason, letting him run the show? Yeah, that's not happening under Parcells.
No,
not one chance. I mean, go get Belichick and say, like,
Oh, did you listen to? I know you're not a Manningcast follower, and I only watch it a little bit. Belichick was on that last night.
He usually is at the top every time, huh?
Yes, he's been on a number of the episodes. I hadn't seen them all, but he took a flamethrower to Woody Johnson on that thing. He goes,
I missed that. I watched some of it because I like watching him.
This is the Jets being the Jets. He goes, the only thing I like about the Jets is Fireman Ed. He goes, you may have noticed that the owner is ready, fire, aim, and always has been.
Because they had that tampering deal and all that.
And he was the coach for like 20 minutes or whatever. So any possibility of Belichick going to work for the Jets was put to rest with that last night.
I got you. No. And he's, he was in divisional team for a while, Woody John. He's been the constant, and it's taken. I don't know. The Jets could have won last night. I was surprised they were put at such a disadvantage. Their rush defense is not nearly as good as their pass defense, but man, Buffalo went the length of the field. It put one pass in the air on the opening drive that finished a touchdown. They got 2 touchdowns basically because they got a call back because of illegal formation maybe, and they went right back and still scored it. It was. It's what's their record now? 2-4.
Yeah. Now, if they win last night, they're tied for first. They haven't been tied for first.
That's 3-3.
Yeah, but they haven't been tied for first this late in the season in 12 years.
The 3 losses are close. They could be a playoff team. They got some work to do, obviously, but no, they could be a playoff team.
The Minnesota loss was a competitive loss. The Bills loss was a competitive loss. They were competitive against the Broncos. They really shouldn't be. They should be significantly better than the Broncos in Bo Nix's 4th start if the game is in New York. That's not a game you should lose if you're the Jets and you fancy yourself as a playoff contender. Let's look at the games that they won. They beat
Tampa Bay good?
Huh?
Is Tampa Bay good?
I think Tampa Bay's pretty good.
They beat the crap out of Tampa Bay, the Broncos.
They did. They had a really big game that day. Bo Nix had a big game.
The Jets aren't. The Broncos are 3-3. The Jets are 2-4.
That 2 wins are against the Titans.
That's
and
with
the
healthy
Patriots.
Surtain.
Yeah.
That's going to shut down Wilson. That's going to be a big deal when you have a big drop off. Now, for a guy like Lazard, still to be, because who else is picking up Lazard on their roster? Period. For him to be somewhat productive at this point does tell you that there is a little bit of chemistry and some value there. And listen, Tom Brady was very picky about his receivers, the sight adjustments, at the line, pre-snap sight adjustments. Like, I got to look at you, you got to look at me, and we got to see this, the way this DB's playing. We're going to attack this way. I think that Adams will be in his best position with Rodgers. He's going to favor him. I think that will give them some sort of boost, but not at the price. And like you said, they get to the playoffs at best. At best.
And it's not like there's not talent there.
But he doesn't care.
No, Breece Hall is a talent. Garrett Wilson is a talent.
Breece Hall showed his most last night. He had his longest run of the year last night. He's still got some pop. I mean, that's not,
They found something in Braylon Allen, a middle round draft pick who has been productive.
He's there between the tackles, runner.
Lazard is an okay receiver. He's 28 years old. He's a decent receiver.
It's
nothing over the moon, but he's okay. Mike Williams is probably past his prime because of the injuries that he sustained.
He's not playing right now.
Well, he was in the game on the interception.
He was playing.
Yeah, he was the guy that slipped on the.
Oh yes. He didn't have a catch, huh?
I don't remember if he had a catch or not, but
I don't think so.
He's been injured so much that
the win was real, dude. Give
the kickers. Yeah.
Give Laura Rutledge credit. She's not just a pretty face. She's pretty good. And she let us know that the difference from one end zone to the next was completely different with that win. And it was a major factor. We talk about just kill the kickers, but the win was real. Now, how should the Jets kicker, and Zerline even told Buck and Aikman, and I thought I finally had this place figured out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was.
The Buffalo extra point tells you how bad it was. I mean, that pro kickers don't do that, okay? Buck had a good line. He said that looked like one of the kicks on game day, where they're kicking for the money. Pro kickers don't do that if there's not something. They blew that one Jets kick. I mean, it was a major factor. There's no doubt. Both of those quarterbacks, even Rodgers at this age, can kind of cut through the wind. Certainly Allen can, but I think you saw the wind adjust that ball, and I mean, on the interception where, I mean, he threw it, and, I mean, Williams couldn't make the adjustment. The Buffalo got, that's kind of a fluke play. The Buffalo made it, but he made the play. Williams slipped, and the DB makes a hell
right
of a
off
catch.
the bench. I mean, there's so many. They should have scored. They had some offensive pop last night to the Jets. I mean, third down, they have to settle for 3 because, I mean, Rodgers puts the ball right there. And Breece Hall kind of casually just puts one hand out and doesn't catch it.
You could see Aikman doesn't like to criticize as much. And
he said he criticizes.
Well, he was ready to get.
Since when?
He censored himself on this one. No, he's gotten so much better. He censored himself on this. He goes, Rodgers has this look of disgust on his face, and Aikman goes, and you can see Aaron Rodgers there is so and he kind of stopped.
No,
but so he wanted to. He wasn't on Rodgers. It was on Hall.
No, Aikman said, "I'm not sure why Breece Hall doesn't try and catch this ball with 2 hands."
Yeah,
he said that. Forget Rodgers' expression. I mean, no, why don't you try and catch the ball with 2 hands?
He was about to say he's disgustisted with him.
But he said he criticized him. Mm-hmm. He's very critical, Charlie.
I like.
He's good. He's way past that early. Those rough spots getting out the shit. It's not. Brady's going through it right now. He's terrible right now. Yeah. He's weak. He's weak right now.
I think what Aikman wanted to say was he just wanted to jump Hall's
Charlie,
ass.
What more can he say? Why doesn't he use 2 hands to catch the ball?
And he did.
He doesn't have to just blast him, scream, and holler.
Right, and that's what he wanted to do. That's what I'm saying. He censored himself. It was so much worse than.
How was it censored if he criticized the guy?
I think he wanted to be a little bit more. When he said he's so disgusted. And he stopped, and he says he should hold the ball with 2 hands right there. You could just I'm just trying to give you the level of frustration.
His exact quote was, "I can't understand why he didn't try and use both hands to catch this ball."
Yeah,
and he's telling me, what are you doing? And what, Aaron Rodgers in the very next play got him back. He caught that ball, both hands, and got up the field. Breece Hall shows him. But that cost him 4 points, or maybe 4 points. Yeah, he hits, look, your boy for the safety for the Bills comes over, and, boy, he puts sideways, clean hit, but he hits Wilson. But Wilson's got to catch that ball, dude. I mean, Wilson's got to catch that ball on that slant in the end zone. He puts a perfect pass. There were points to be made. How about from the 1 yard line? The left tackle, Tyron Smith, has nothing to do with the play.
Yeah,
it's a wham right up the gut to Allen. He's in. Did Wilson kind of now? I mean, Smith, did he give him kind of a reason, which he shouldn't have done? But now Rodgers called it a phantom hold. It was a marginal hold, but it was a flag. That's the way they called it. I mean, they threw flags, and how many more would have been called? Don't look at a box score because there were so many offsetting penalties that didn't evolve into an enforced penalty. I mean, you had 22 penalties, and it was like 34 called.
When's the last time you had a quarterback say that a late hit on him wasn't a personal foul?
No, I cannot remember the last time a quarterback said, "Yeah, that personal foul was not."
Yeah,
I can't remember.
No, I can't either. And it's one of those ones by the letter of the law. He tackles him and he falls on top of him.
He finishes him, with his weight.
I don't.
I was shocked. I was shocked they called that.
Yeah. It's just so you are ripping the enjoyment out of the game, and the players. I don't even think the players want it. If the guy that's being most affected doesn't want that call, then who does? I mean, it was Rodgers that had the guy land on him, and he says that it shouldn't have been called.
And Rodgers is smart enough to know that he's trying to manipulate the media. He doesn't. If he didn't want to criticize the overall refs in a loss, he's not saying it. He's not including that one.
Right.
Okay, but I thought you did a very good job of painting out the difference between the aging quarterback, an Hall of Fame quarterback, and these guys and what they're doing compared to him. I mean, and why does he care? He's going to be here for a year, 2 more, and hey, man, bring my guy in. And I do think tell me, 31 other teams, Lazard is available right now. Who's picking him up?
I think he'd be in the league.
You think so?
He's 28 years old. He caught 50 balls last year. Yeah, he's still
28.
Yeah,
he just can't get.
It seems like he's been
any
around
separation.
He's just a guy. Okay, I'm not telling you, but is he on a? I'll tell you what. He could be the Saints' third receiver right now. He's better than those guys. He's better. Anybody past that first 2, he's better than that. He's still an NFL receiver. He's just nothing. He's nothing special.
Okay, all right.
He's just okay.
I think it'd be a few. I don't think there'd be many.
Like I said, I think he's still an NFL receiver. He's just a guy. I was happy for Ray Davis last night. This is a cat that we watched at Kentucky, and it was like, man, you got to like his story. First of all, he's orphaned. He took care of his siblings. He went from Temple to Vanderbilt to Kentucky. He had 1,000-yard rushing seasons at Vanderbilt in Kentucky. How many times has Ray Davis ever gotten on the field where he was on the best team? Okay, in a conference game at Vanderbilt in Kentucky, maybe 20% of the time where he had the better team. So he gets the call late. They scratch James Cook, and he had a hell of a game. That's one of those guys. You go get him in the 4th round, they help you win a game. Saints took a running back in the 3rd round. He can't get on the field for 2 years. Bill's got a guy, and he's an honest back. He's not an all-pro or anything. There were huge holes. He hit them. He runs hard. He finishes off the runs. He catches a football. He caught one deep ball. I like Ray Davis. Ray Davis could play for my team.
Ray Davis is going to be in the NFL for quite some time, and he should be at least in most of the running backs are tandems in the NFL. That's what they're. That's just pretty much everybody, and he's a tandem guy. I thought he was the best back in college football at times last year because I knew that. Kentucky didn't have the best offensive line, and he just got a lot out of the that was afforded to him.
What do you think he averaged per carry at Kentucky that year?
Last year?
Yeah.
He's a rookie, right? Yeah, last year.
Yeah, last year. What do you think he averaged?
7 yards carry?
5.7, but still, I mean.
For the whole season, the NFL.
The whole season.
In the SEC behind Kentucky's offensive line.
Yeah, that's pretty
Who else averaged 5.7?
Probably not very many guys. not many guys that played for teams like Kentucky.
Yeah,
sure.
We're live here at Doe's Eat Place in Government Street in the heart of Mid-City. And, look, a night game, so, everybody's at the game. But, hey, man, when it's not a night game or when it's a away game, but you can come in here and eat dinner and watch it on the screens here in the Crown Town Room. We'll have LSU Arkansas on this Saturday night, so come on by and see us. It's a steak, a great steak, high-quality, hand-cut steak that is set in a casual setting. So, got all the great sides that you want, great wine selection, great bar with any type of mixed drink, terrific old fashions that they do over here at Doe's Eat Place. But if you come on by over here, it's just a way to eat a great steak, but in a casual atmosphere. That's where we are at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in the heart of Mid-City.
Live at Doe's, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Back here at Doe's Eat Place live at lunch. I got good news for you, Jimmy. You ready for this?
Yeah.
You can now bet Utah games without wondering if Cam Rising is going to be
He's
in the
out.
line, or not.
Well,
he's been ruled out for the season, and Utah actually put out a statement this time. I like Kyle Whittingham an awful lot. He's been a very good coach for a long time. He's had a lot of success at that school.
He is maxed out at Utah. Let's face it.
Well, and maybe so. That's not where I was going with it, though. He made a mistake Friday night. Keeping Cam Rising.
He kept playing it when he was.
It was asking for a wounded racehorse to give a sprint. Rising couldn't set his feet. Andre Ware was on the call, and he kept talking about he's like, this kid can't plant on his right leg. And Rising, who is ordinarily a pretty accurate quarterback, was missing very easy throws. I mean, I'm talking about when he's not pressured, these very easy throws, the falling out of bed throws that he can make at any time. He threw 3 interceptions, which he's only done once in his life. And they have a backup that has played some. It's Zach Wilson's little brother.
He's really bad.
Yeah, and they should not have played him. And in the second half, even the broadcast team and Ware was like, I'm surprised. They're going to give him one series here. Then they're going to get him out. He can't play. I was shocked that they let him go the whole way. And I had Arizona State in the game, but I'm sitting here going, they're going to get Rising out of the game. They should get Rising out of the game. He got rolled at the I want to say the second possession, maybe it might even be the first possession. So it wasn't even the hand injury that was bothering him. He got rolled. He came up.
I lost a little respect for Whittingham.
I thought it was a big mistake.
I lost a little respect with the whole games being played. It was just a little silly. I mean, he's been a game-time decision for what?
A year and a half.
18 straight games.
Yeah.
It's been a little silly. But they could not have won that game with the backup. And so he had to give it a shot. All right, I'll give you that. But once at probably maybe half, or maybe even if you want to say, all right, he's playing hurt, but maybe he can adjust. I'm sure they shot him up or
at
whatever.
halftime, yeah.
But it never got any better. And there was a time. The tempting part, and this is where I'll side with Willingham. Now, understand where Willingham's perspective is that it was a one-possession game the whole game. It was 8. Yeah. I think the largest lead was like 8. And so it was never out of it. And that backup is bad. But it's easy to say now, but I'm like,
weren't you saying it during the game?
I'm feeling for him.
Yeah, we used to watch.
He's playing hurt. Yeah. And you know what? He's playing. Arizona State's a little better than we thought. At home, they were flying. I mean,
Dillingham's got him playing hard.
He was. Yes, this guy is. I mean, they got some restrictions, man. It's just a Herm Edwards deal.
Some life there,
Yeah, and he's the youngest coach in Division I. He's the youngest out of 135. Oh, yeah, man. I mean, he was jumping around with the field rush. And
I saw that. I didn't realize he was quite that young.
So, I mean, he's give him a chance. And they're so much better than anybody thought they were going to be this year. So much better.
We used to watch boxing when it was still a real sport. And sometimes you just see an overmatched guy, and you go to the referee, stop the fight, man.
I did feel a little text Cobb Larry home.
Yeah, it's like, please, get him out of there. I mean, I understand the kid is giving you everything he's got, but please get him out.
And the other really thing, I still think that a healthy Cam Rising to his backup is the biggest adjustment in college football. He's not the best, but from him to his backup is that bad.
You know who the backup is, right? It's Zach Wilson's younger brother, Isaac Wilson. And he's a true freshman, so he's overmatched at this point.
He's got some ability. Yeah. He's got some ability, just like his brother.
He'll be better later on, but he's overmatched as a true freshman.
But
tough go. Rising out for the season. 7th-year guy. Could he apply for another year? The answer is yes, he can.
No, he had that before.
I know, but they gave the guy in Miami 4 extra years.
But had he played the whole season, if he played 12 games, he had another year. He already said before the year, no, this is it.
Yeah. Well,
so
he's 24 years old.
Yeah, I understand, but hey, I mean, is he going to be an NFL quarterback? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so.
No.
So I mean, make you lick it. In
You'll make you lick your last year in college now instead of your rookie year in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean,
You're way more lucrative.
don't forget our friends over at K&M Automotive on Segan Lane. My buddy Jason Payne going to give you an honest deal. That's what you want. You've heard the horror stories of being upcharged, unnecessary work. Jason's going to give you an honest deal. That's why he's busy. Stop on by, and anything that, if your engine light comes on, bring it on in. We'll let you know what's going on. This light comes on to alert. Let Jason know. Undercar services, electronic, general services like oil changes to rotations, to AC service, belts and hoses, electrical work, transmission services, you name it, we do it over at K&M Automotive. And if we don't do it, we will certainly send you in the direction of somebody that you can trust. 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, Segan Lane, right off of Perkins, across from Ambrosia Bakery. It's the only place I take my vehicle, K&M Automotive.
Live at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, let's go out to Las Vegas. Talk to Andy Iskoe with us each and every week at this time. Also, with our Sunday NFL contributors, we had a losing week this past Sunday, but Andy was 1-0-1 thanks to the +7 that we had at Washington at the DraftKings Sportsbook here at the Queen Casino on Sunday. Max doing a good job of letting us know when they got the 7 so we could get that turned a loss into a push. But Andy also had Buffalo last night. Andy, Buffalo pushed the Jets around up front last night. Were you surprised?
I was surprised at that physical difference between the two teams, and yet they struggled for a win. But a win is a win. And by the way, as far as that Washington game goes, they likely would have scored a touchdown on that possession instead of settling for the field goal, but for one of the most inexcusable penalties in football, and that's the illegal formation. That's an indefensible penalty to ever commit.
Yeah, and Bill Belichick was on the Manning cast last night. So, I mean, these self-induced penalties on both sides, I mean, you just can't have them. Buffalo was able to overcome theirs early, and the Jets were not
11 on each team, I think.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell you the whole story. I mean, how many times did they have penalties on both teams that were offsetting? So, I mean, we're talking about committed penalties, flags that were thrown. It was all night long. I mean, I think it pushed that close to 30. He had 3 or 4 where they had plays where both teams had offsetting penalties. I mean, whether it was offsides and interference. I mean, so anyway, they do. What it did do was another favorite, another public team, another over hit. Now, it was. And even in a case where it was a lot of favorites that covered in the NFL, covered period in college football as well, but even the Colts were an underdog, 2.5-point underdogs. But the public has made up their mind. If Will Levis, they're going to roll Will Levis out there to start, they're betting against him. So he threw his weekly interception, and he also threw for less than 100 yards. So they're going to continue to bet them. So that was a dog that was very, very public.
What I didn't like about that game is that all week we heard that Michael Pittman was unlikely to play. He goes out and catches the game-winning touchdown pass. NFL needs to look into some of these reports, and it's not just for the betting purposes. It's for the scouting and the preparation of the other teams. And we've heard allegations of a lot of maneuvering. I think isn't Ole Miss involved in something like that in the colleges for some of their?
No, they're faking injuries. They're faking injuries on the field that are completely obvious, which they've tried to keep the officials out of it. They want them to kind of stay out of it, but the league office in the end, they have scolded them. That's about it, huh, Charlie? They've had a little reprimand, which has done nothing.
Yeah, they don't even have to change the rule.
That's a great detriment. All it means is I get an earache.
Yes.
They have a rule in place, a sportsmanship policy. It is within their purview without changing the rule to fine them or discipline them in some way, and they haven't done it.
Are you talking about a rule within the league office?
Within the league office,
yes,
yeah. They don't even have to go put a new rule in. It's already there.
And they had some more Saturday night? We know the ones against Kentucky. And
not only do you see the guy fall down, you see them signaling to the sideline. On the television cut.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even they're not even trying to mask it.
But Andy, my point I was trying to make is that it was very, very public, and all four of the public teams hit on the afternoon games, the late games on Sunday. The two primetime games hit, and the knockout blow last night was some moneyline parlay liability on Buffalo. That closed out last well. My buddy Paul Stone on the podcast earlier this morning, he says, I think they'll remain open. So, yes, that was kind of funny.
And by the way, it was only a matter of time before we started seeing favorites perform well in the NFL after the outstanding success of underdogs earlier in the year. And also, part of that is, if you've noticed, we've had a lot fewer games with lines of touchdowns or more this year, and we're already a third of the way through the season.
So now, the million-dollar question is, do these teams that are starting to figure it out, do they continue this way? Or is it a week where, do the Bills take care of the Titans in the 8.5-point spread right now? You got some matchups where you got struggling teams, Broncos, Saints, struggling teams, two successful teams, Lions and Vikings. You got two struggling teams, Patriots and Jaguars. But then you got Bengals versus Browns. You've got Eagles versus Giants. Panthers and Commanders is a great game. They're going to be all over Washington in that game. It's only 7.5.
I'm waiting for next week's game, Chicago and Washington.
Two rookie quarterbacks, 1 versus 2.
And Williams has closed the gap with his big London performance.
I could not understand the love for Jacksonville heading into that game that turned Jacksonville from a 2-point dog to a 1.5-point favorite. I just could not. I still don't know what I missed. I loved Chicago when I played Chicago. My best play of the week. Unfortunately, couldn't use it on the show because the game, was the early game. I could not understand why everyone loved Jacksonville. What did I miss?
They have played more games in London than everybody else. They know the routine, and they've had a little bit of a run of success.
Got there Friday morning late because of the impacts of the hurricane. Chicago got there on Tuesday. I'd say they were pretty well acclimated.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense with a storm coming to get out of there late. So, no, what they are doing is they knew they were going to be there for 2 games in a row. And so they tried to reduce it, but that's a good point. Still compromised them on this one, but I understand it, Jacksonville. That's another thing to just get routed like that, embarrassed, by Chicago. Well, Chicago minus Carolina has done nothing this year.
Yeah, we're seeing a Chicago team develop much like Washington, especially with Washington with a new head coach. You expect some of these teams to improve, maybe just not as quickly as they have. And of course, Williams started slowly, but he seems to be getting better every week after the first couple of weeks.
And we'll have to see if is now you've done it against 2 really weak defenses. And can it carry over? Can it sustain against as a level of competition increases?
Well, we may not learn that against Washington, although Chicago is on their bye this week, so I'm sure they've got some things that they want to work on to improve themselves. And the defense has been pretty solid, but one of the most surprising stats is what the Chargers are doing. I think Herbert went over 200 yards for the first time this year passing the ball. Now they did have the bye, so it's only 5 games, but going into the game, Chargers are averaging about 135 passing yards per game, and that's typical Harbaugh, and it seems to be working.
The best player on Denver's team went out very early. Surtain with concussion protocol. Is it first quarter, Charlie?
Yes.
Yeah. It was.
Don't think he's going to play tomorrow night either.
No, well, if he does, there's no such thing as a concussion protocol.
And the other thing was
with him and Olave.
After the game, they said this is the first time in a long time that Justin Herbert has felt healthy. Now, I'll take him at their word for that, but he's had some nagging things. He had the injury in training camp, the plantar fasciitis. Sometimes that'll linger. They said it's the first time he's felt healthy in a long time.
Yeah, I just think it's just the game plan that doesn't call for a lot of passing, and Harbaugh loves to run the ball, wear the defensive line down, and play well in the fourth quarter. Now, of course, it didn't show statistically this week because they were up 20-0 in that game, and Denver scored late because Chargers were just waiting for the game to end. But Harbaugh certainly had his imprint with his philosophical approach to football with the Chargers, and it's a team that could be a little bit dangerous later in the year.
How you see that Chiefs 49ers game in San Francisco?
I liked what I saw out of San Francisco finally last Thursday night against Seattle, where they really took over the game early and got a little close later in the game, but they're getting a little bit healthier. Samuel's back, and McCaffrey still, we don't even know if he's going to play this season, but they're getting a little healthier. And at Kansas City, no Rice, no Pacheco, they are in a time of transition now. They did have the bye, so they may have addressed some of those issues. Not sure what to think about that game just yet. I need to do a little bit more of work on it, but my initial inclination is, and I don't place anything on the revenge for the Super Bowl, because this game, 49ers could win this game 49-0. They still lost the Super Bowl, so it's not going to really mean anything. I just think they may be coming into this game with a little bit closer to being in peak form than the Chiefs are right now.
Andy, what do you?
Changes the Chiefs have to make.
You're in Las Vegas. What are your thoughts of Devontae Adams going over to the Jets just a couple of hours ago?
Not a surprise. It's not going to help much right now with the Raiders. It's just a messed up situation. Whether it helps with the Jets, I'm not sure. I mean, Rodgers is starting to show his age, although once again he had that great Hail Mary. What did I see the stat? 46 times he's had touchdown passes of over 50 yards. Of course, a couple were long runs after the passes have been caught by some of the great receivers he's thrown to over the years. I do think it will help the Jets be a little bit more competitive, but I'm still not all that optimistic. And I heard, what I see the report, was it last night, that Tua expects to play before the end of the season, so maybe Miami again becomes a player in the AFC East, but if he's not back until Thanksgiving, it might be too late.
All right, a couple SEC games and a big one in Texas. People in Austin are on alert now that with Georgia and the F1 coming to town this weekend. If the Georgia players will be driving any of the F1 vehicles, so that has got people on alert there in Austin. But still, here's more of a desperate team, and here is a team that is underdog for the first time in 50 games. We always hear, nobody respected us. Well, now they get to play this card. They're underdog. Wait, we won how many national championships? We've been asking, what have they done? What have we done? Y'all still underdogs. And then Texas can't look any better, but against two. The teams they beat right now, I'll be shocked if any of those teams finish in the top 25.
No, it was the best team they faced. What, maybe Michigan on the road, and Michigan's just very ordinary this year.
Yeah, very much.
It's an interesting matchup, but the thing is also, Georgia is not as strong, clearly, on both sides of the football as they have, and especially defensively. I mean, they've had their moments, but they've also had a lot of sloppy play. The offense has not clicked the way it has. That's not saying that I won't be on Georgia this week. I might very well be. I haven't decided yet because it's still a very talented team. But this Texas team is playing like they know they are the best team in the land. And we obviously saw that great game between Oregon and Ohio State last week, but who do you like? Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian?
I mean, we talked about this with Georgia when I liked Alabama. Like, how many games has Kirby, when it's been even, how many games has he won when it's been even talent level? Some of these games against Alabama have been very even, okay? But even to Michigan, that semifinal, that was not even. I mean, they toyed with Michigan. That Michigan team.
I think the number we came up with was if the spread was 3 or less.
It was 8 or less.
It was 8
or less. He was 500.
7-6. Yeah, 7.
He was 500. He was 500. And that's straight up.
Yeah,
and they've been the majority of the time they've been a slight favorite in those games. I think Sark has done a really good job with yours. I think yours had his game. I think that was smart to bring him back. I just don't know if they've played anybody. I just don't know how good they are. So the other game is Tennessee and Alabama, Andy, and that is, two athletic quarterbacks. Charlie, is it just as simple as one quarterback's 1 year further along in his development? I mean, remember Milroe at this time last year?
Well,
it wasn't pretty.
We're going to find out because you're looking at an Alabama defense that's ranked 55th, and teams are talking about getting well against Alabama's defense, which you never hear. And Nico struggled last week.
But Tennessee, well, he's been struggling all year.
Right.
I mean, Kent State, with a running clock, okay, and NC State did not prove to be the comp. He threw 2 picks in that game. But the defense, the one decent offensive, they gave up 440 yards against Arkansas. in that loss. So schedule related, I mean, they were lucky. They were fortunate. Mertz doesn't go down, they're not going to lose. They're going to lose that game. They're going to lose that game on Saturday night in Knoxville. So, but man, that's going to be a hard place to win. We just saw that. Ole Miss figured it out. Jackson Dart's still scratching his head, trying to figure out how they lost that game Saturday night in Tiger Stadium.
Yeah. The Tennessee-Alabama game is interesting because the way that they struggled against South Carolina, a little bit of a surprise. But then again, it's a different coach, and maybe the secret sauce that Nick Saban had in getting Alabama to play at such a high level, and virtually every time they took the field, maybe that's something that DeBoer still has to work on. I still like the talent, I still like the team, and the SEC is very interesting because now outside of Texas, you got a whole bunch of one-loss teams. Now, one-loss teams will make the playoffs this year. 2 losses, very questionable. So many of these SEC games are elimination games over the next 6 weeks.
I'm not so sure about that because they're going to be a lot of they're going to cannibalize each other, and they're going to be quality losses, and they got chances for quality wins as well. We've been trying to figure that out for quite some time, and we will see exactly how that shakes out. Don't forget to join Andy. He's been hot this year again with us on Sundays with his top 2 selections each and every week. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the week.
Don't forget our friends at Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com's windows, doors, siding, and shutters. Speaking of the doors, exterior doors, French doors, sliding glass doors, all of the doors that you need. Man, do you want that curb appeal when they come to your house and when they first enter your house? And that's what we do with the doors over there. Headquartered in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Relief Windows provides quality windows, doors, siding, and interior shutters. In Louisiana, of course, but in Texas and Mississippi as well, and promise the highest quality craftsmanship service in the South. Check us out at reliefwindows.com or give us a call. Schedule a free appointment at 230-5652, 230-5652, or you can go online to schedule your free quote as well. Relief Windows at reliefwindows.com.
Live at Doe's Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
A couple things to follow up on what Andy said, Jimmy. The favorites this weekend. Last night made 9 road favorites that covered in a given week. So 9-0 road favorites covering if you start with the Thursday night game and go to last night's game.
Make Colts another public team. They're very public.
Yeah. The Colts covered. The Texans covered. The Buccaneers covered. The 49ers covered on Thursday night. The Steelers covered. The Chargers covered. The Lions covered. The Falcons covered. The Bengals covered. Probably shouldn't have, but did. And then the Bills last night, 9-0.
All
favorites.
All four 3 o'clock games and the 2 primetime games. Those 6 were all road chalk.
Yeah,
and all public. But the reason I mentioned the Colts track is that was the dog that was public.
It was public, yeah. The other thing was about the Bears. Their next 3 games, Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots, those are some pretty porous defensive teams by the numbers. There's a chance for Caleb Williams there. And they don't play a division game, toughest division in football. All 4 teams have a winning record, and by at least 2 games as well. They don't play a division game until the last half of the season. 6 of their last 8 games are in the division, but they still got a month to go before that starts. So there's a chance for them to build some more momentum here.
See if the Lions now go out and try and find an edge rusher as well.
They brought in Isaiah Thomas today as kind of a stopgap, but
he's a point guard.
Yeah. and a bad coach. No, they brought in Isaiah Thomas. They may be looking for more help than that. First class, second class, no class at the top of the hour. Doe's Eat Place, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch, First Class.
I want a seat in first class where I was booked and ticketed over a month ago.
Second Class.
No man should be subjected to the indignity of being labeled or treated like a second-class citizen.
And No Class.
Like I become like school on Sunday. No class.
I'll tell you what then. Why don't you call me sometime when you have no class?
First Class, Second Class, and No Class. Brought to you by Supreme Rice. Buy local with Louisiana-based Supreme Rice since 1936.
And we return here at Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in Mid-City. First class, second class, no class. Come by, see us for lunch here in the Crown Town Room. Our every other Tuesday haunt here at Doe's Eat Place. All right. We've had some teams that have certainly surprised here at the beginning of the season. Teams like Army and Navy are undefeated. Iowa State's undefeated. BYU's undefeated. I want to point out two guys that are coaching teams. One of them's undefeated. The other one is 5-1. Jimmy, what we like to do is we like to look at when a coach comes in, what has happened there before, and then once they leave, you can look at what happens there after. But two guys that took over the most, I think, some of the more difficult situations in college football that have done a great job. One we've talked about a good bit. One we haven't hardly talked about at all. I'll start with the one that we've talked about a lot, which is Kirk Cignetti at Indiana. They are ranked this highly for the first time since the 1960s, but outside of the COVID year, we always throw the COVID year out. Since 2007, Indiana has had one winning season. They're 6-0. I mean, when you've had one winning season over a decade, more than a decade and a half, and you're now 6-0, you're headed towards the best season that you've had in 55 years. I think that's a pretty strong accomplishment. But he's been talked about a pretty good bit. The one I would have never figured. We knew a little bit about Cignetti. He had that success at James Madison and a couple other smaller schools. I would have never picked this in a million years. That Bryant Vincent, who if you had asked me in August who Bryant Vincent was, I would have told you he's starring in a sitcom or something. I had no idea who he was, but he's the head coach at UL Monroe, and they are 5-1. The previous 4 years, UL Monroe had won 10 games combined. And so a lot of that was under Terry Bowden, who certainly enjoyed a fair amount of success at other places, including Auburn. In the last 12 years, they've had one season where they won more than 6 games. So in a dozen years, you had 1 8-5 year, and that's it. And they're 5-1. This guy, other than being an interim, had never been a head coach at the college level. He had done a little high school coaching where he'd been a head coach, but he came in from New Mexico and has completely turned them around. And to have beaten a team like Madison, who is good. We saw them again the other night. I mean, for that level, the non-power conference, James Madison is good. They beat North Carolina by 20. They put 70 up on the Tar Heels at Chapel Hill. They beat a 4-1 Coastal Carolina team by 32. I mean, thumped them. And UL Monroe managed to beat them. I don't know anything about that game. I didn't see it, but they managed to do that. So these two guys came from nothing. Came to programs that had almost no success, and they've got them. They got them cruising. I mean, if you're talking about great jobs in college football, those two guys have got to be real, real high on the list. So first class to Bryant Vincent and Kirk Cignetti.
The 5-1 at UL Monroe was crazy. I mean, I thought that would be a spot for them to be in a little trouble, following up that James Madison win against Southern Miss. They followed it up with a 38-21 win on Saturday. They're 5-1. Their only loss is to number 1 Texas. Now, their best win is James Madison. UAB's not good, although their quarterback might be coming back soon. Troy Summerall took his staff and his best players. They're 1-5 this year. Southern Miss is down, so not exactly murderer's row. James Madison, that's the big win. They got the big play of the game. James Madison was driving right before half, and UL Monroe got an 82-yard scoop and score. And they held on, and they held on to win. But, no, I mean, probably the win total was probably about 3.5.
I would say.
Indiana's the same way. Indiana's got to make or break it. Indiana's not only 6-up straight up, but 6-0 against the spread. If you could find an Western Illinois line, which they covered easily as well. They scored 70 in that game, and that's what they're doing. Second in the country in scoring, 4th in yards per game, and top 10 in third down percentage. The two lower conference quarterbacks that I didn't lukewarm transfers. Okay, it's something. But as soon I was sitting in the hotel room at Circa, and I saw Diego Pavia rolling past Virginia Tech. I was like, this might translate. This may translate. Virginia Tech is pretty good. And for them to, but it's the other one is Curtis Rourke. Diego Pavia comes from New Mexico State. Maybe it's a Power 4 arrogance. I'm like, yeah, she's got to get a transfer. He's doing it, Jack. He's going from just a nice little story to poor man's Johnny Manziel. I mean, he is a headache to deal with his legs and with his arm. And Curtis Rourke, when you have 60% on third down, Charlie, that's your quarterback. And is it coaching? Is it the quarterback? It's both. But I think Cignetti as well. And I like these coaches. When you're trying to fire a coach, if you can have him at these small stops where they were winning everywhere, to me that's impressive. Because it's small level, but he's competing against people with comparable resources. Very similar to, I don't discount Brian Kelly's success at Grand Valley State. I know. No, that counts, man. They're not they might be upper end resources compared to their competitors, but it's not like they got, it's comparable resource, what you do in your conference. Indiana's got a big game against Nebraska. They're coming off of a bye, and they have Ohio State next week. Ohio State might be the only game where they're underdog in. It's bringing up conversations already. They're 10-2. Are they going to get in? I don't think so. The best win is Maryland. Maryland's 64 on the power rating scale. So both teams very good. The rest of the schedule, though, the schedule will ramp up. Indiana's doesn't much, though.
If not, do you think he would be? But if you were inviting 5 guys to New York for the half Heisman, we played half a season here, would you invite Curtis Rourke?
Level of competition, so
I don't have a strong opinion. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he can't do any more than what they're going against. He cannot. The UCLA, I've seen some teams not exactly blow through UCLA. Minnesota, who beat USC recently. I mean, who LSU lost to, we know, but they struggle to move the ball against UCLA. I mean, Indiana went up and down the field, chunk play after chunk play. So nobody has come close to stopping them. Nebraska, we do know this about Nebraska. Matt Rule's got a defense. He knows how to coach defense. And them coming off of a loss, coming off of a bye, also, both teams coming off a bye this week for this Indiana-Nebraska game.
Rourke is the number 1 rated quarterback in the nation and is top 10 among power conference schools in yards per game. So the numbers, the level of competition, you're right there. But the counting numbers are in his favor.
Northwestern is not bad defensively too. How about what they went on the road and did to Maryland too?
That was one of the biggest discrepancies in power rating to spread to the actual outcome of the game. It was 17-point.
They beat the spread by like 40 points.
Yeah, they were about a 16-point underdog, I think, and won by 16. I may be off a little bit on my numbers there, but they were a double-digit underdog for sure.
Yes,
and they won by double digits, so it was one of the bigger surprises. All right, you can't do any better, but it is. I don't know, man. Yeah, maybe so. Let's see some more.
Maybe
but
so.
He's done the number for what he's had to go. All right, I didn't know where to put this. I didn't know whether to put it in first class or no class. So this is not good with a chance to be great. This is just something I needed to get your opinion on, and I just
want to talk about it.
I do. I just want to talk about it. Okay. We got. We love to scrutinize game management with coaches. Would you say that Dan Lanning was one that we took to task a few times last year at Oregon for some of the game management stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Here's a scenario. 10 seconds to go in the game. Ohio State, who is down a point, is facing 3rd and 25 at the Oregon 43-yard line. Okay. The Ducks call a timeout with 10 seconds to go. They, on purpose, send 12 guys out on the field. They run the play. The play takes 4 seconds, or the pass is incomplete. because this is a live ball foul with the 12 men on the field, the clock runs and it counts. So they take the 5-yard penalty, which brings them to the 38, which still doesn't put them in field goal range, and they give them another play. Well, we know what happened on the last play. Will Howard tries to get down and give himself up. The play started with 6 seconds. He missed it by a second or two. Ohio State had a timeout. He was trying to get them in the field goal range, get down, give himself up, and give a timeout. Came a second or two short. The 4 seconds that Dan Lanning took off the clock with a purpose penalty, sending 12 guys out there, ended up being the difference in the ball game. Is this a good play? Is this a weasel thing? Is this really, really smart? Is this really unethical? Is this incredible gamesmanship or incredible games management? You took advantage of he didn't do anything wrong. They broke the rule on purpose. Like I said, I don't know quite how to feel about this, but it definitely made an impact on the end of the game. Because if Howard scrambles with 10 seconds to go and gets them in field goal range, they've got time to kick a field goal and win the game, and they didn't. So where are you on putting 12 guys on the field on purpose to take time off the clock at that
Don't
stage?
hate the player, hate the game, man. If when coaches take advantage and the situations, it isn't often, okay? Because when you put in 12 guys intentionally, you still get a free play.
You do.
You get a free play.
And if
there's a very tight window of when you could use it. It's almost like, defensive pass interference in college, not in pro.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to. It's only 15 as opposed to the whole time. So, it's in less than a minute. Do you make it 5 and 15? Maybe so. I mean, that's something they will discuss, and they should discuss. But because it's not the spirit of what you want to do. But man, I'm not trying to win you over on first, second, no class. I'm trying to win a game. Yeah. So if it's going to help my team, that's good coaching.
Like I said, I don't know. I'm not thinking that this is a weasel. I'm thinking this guy figured out a better mousetrap.
He's being applauded for it, actually.
Yeah, no,
he's taking advantage of it.
And to change the rule, I don't know if I'd change the yardage, but you might say, well, in this particular situation, do we reset the clock back to the original 10 seconds in this case?
You remember the playoff game? It was back and forth between Belichick and Vrabel, Tennessee and New England. I think it was.
With the formation where
the automatic delay of game, delay of game, or intentional. Right. It was either intentional delay of game or intentional offsides, and they kept refusing.
Belichick had manipulated the rule. Which he was.
No, Vrabel was.
I'm sorry, Vrabel.
Vrabel was
as good as
it was Brady's last game with the Patriot.
Okay. Yeah. I do remember the situation. I don't remember the details of it, but I do remember that they were like, "Hey, you can't do that."
Yeah, it was one of those Saturday evening games, and we're like waiting in Natchez to go to dinner, and it just wasn't in because these two had a stalemate.
Right.
I mean, it's Belichick. He ain't budging, and his understudy he ain't budging. By the way, those two guys are both out of work, huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Belichick ain't going to work for the Jets after last night's broadcast.
Do they have better winning percentages than Dennis Allen down to them? But no. Mickey said the Chuck No run's coming.
Dennis Allen's winning percentage is among the worst of any coach to ever put on a headset at that level for that many games. Lanning's quote was this, and I'm using this to kind of segue into the next thing, is we spend an inordinate amount of time on situations, and some situations don't come up very often in college football, but this was obviously something we had worked on, and you can see the result. I'll be honest with you, this is not a scenario I would have ever considered. The one I'm about to talk about is one we would consider quite a bit, but this one I would have never considered this situation.
Give him credit. I mean, they are, like we said, because coaches are trained to watch film, not games. So they need to do extra work on different scenarios. And so he did it. I mean, they were prepared for it, and his team was prepared for it as well. So, I mean, but I think they're, in the publicity of it on such a high-profile game, it's the biggest game of the weekend, and it was, it might force the rules guys to kind of, under a minute, under 2 minutes, be more of a severely enforced penalty.
Yeah. So it brings us to the no class, and I'm so sorry. I don't want to pile on the guy. Actually, I do.
Hey, what's stopping you from putting 14 on the field, too?
Nothing.
I know.
Nothing. He put 12. He could have easily put 13 or 14 on the field. It's the same penalty. I have nothing against Kalen DeBoer other than the job that he took that I don't particularly like this school. But when you I wouldn't have never considered this situation that Lanning had in place, so giving credit for that one. But my team up one and in the open field and falling down to kneel it out, that's a scenario that comes up more often than you think. That's one we've seen a number of times. Calling timeout from your own 38 with 11 seconds to go in the half and no timeouts left, that's a scenario that I would think you would have talked about when you want to go hurry up, when you want to take a shot, and when you don't, based on the field position. So that's two game management things that DeBoer nearly cost his team on Saturday. But it's some of the other things that he's doing. The Malachi Moore thing, when he kicks a football and he basically throws a hissy fit in the middle of the field because they're losing to Vanderbilt, and DeBoer says, he feels bad about it. We'll talk to him about it. What you're coming from and what you're going to, man, I'm sorry. And between that, I don't care what kind of shirt he wears on the sideline. I think he could have probably done better than the grocery store T-shirt that he wore. But I don't really care about that stuff. But it is one of those, the attention to detail ain't there, and we thought it was from him. He's been a very good game day coach. He's won almost all of the close games. You say, well, if he's won all those close games, is the pendulum just swinging back? Is he going to start losing some of these close games, some of these 50-50 games? But you shouldn't be in a 50-50 game at Alabama if you're playing Vanderbilt. You shouldn't be in a 50-50 game if you're playing South Carolina. Those things are supposed to be a once-in-a-decade or once-in-2-decade type of thing. It's supposed to take Steven Garcia's the game of his life to beat an Alabama team when you're at South Carolina. He didn't have that. So I got to ask, what are you thinking about DeBoer? What are you thinking when his guys don't do these things?
I expected a lack of, for it to be a drop off in discipline. I mean, come on.
Because how could it not be?
Come on. I mean, you name minus Bill Belichick. Who's coming in there and it's not going to be a drop off in discipline? And when I'm talking about the stuff that is visible, the sideline behavior, the in game chirping, the post game fight. You lost to Vanderbilt? Go to the locker room.
Yeah.
Don't pick a fight. You think Vandy's picking a fight?
No.
Come on, man. They're ecstatic. I mean, just you're Alabama, and just some of these things. That, to this degree, I'm a little surprised. But this was the most predictable. But the management, the game management, where he was on top of things. You just talked about a guy, Dan Lanning. Who are you going to compare game management, Dan Lanning and Kalen DeBoer after last year?
We watched DeBoer out-coach him.
A bunch of times. We watched him out-coach a bunch of people a bunch of times, okay? But him not to have these details in game management figured out. And there's just some things that are – that to me is the surprise. And I mean, how out of a timeout you in a one point lead, when if you score a touchdown, it's still a one possession game. They want you. Trust me, they're trying to stop you from the first down. If they don't, they want you to score. And you did something that your opponent wants. That's the only way. They're out of timeouts. It's less than 2 minutes. Game over. You take the knee. I mean, how can't you have that covered? How can't you have that thought out is beyond me.
We've seen a team in the Super Bowl allow a team to score. In the Super Bowl, okay?
Yes.
So that you can have an opportunity to get it and tie the game.
But we saw an NFL team do it Sunday night, too.
Yeah, and they didn't
the
fall
game
down
was over.
either.
Victory formation. If Chase Brown goes down after the first down, it just can't. It just. But that to me really, really surprised me. How much cushion do they have? One like 5 yards, like 20 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, the score was like 4th and 6 from like the 36 or something. I mean, just you can't have that. And that surprises me. I thought he would be a little bit more buttoned up than he was, and that's the pressure. And that's the pressure. When pressure is getting to people, because we've seen players or coaches do something routinely, and then all of a sudden, different stage of a game. When it's a pressure situation, different stage as far as how big the game is, or the job, or the how tight the game is, and you do something that's out of character, and that's what he's doing. And we've seen him in pressure. You talked about all those when he was 10-1 against the ranked opponents or whatever it is. Yeah. You said they were all one possession games. That's great management with the game on the line. He's just not rolling out there and winning 44-6. And we've seen it over and over, and that's why, man, that Las Vegas game. I said, man. This guy, coach, the Sugar Bowl, coach, just got pushed around by Michigan. They had no chance. And his quarterback was off, too, against Michigan. But, man, he's really, really been good on some pretty big stages.
My sympathy lies with the freshman class at Alabama who went there expecting to have this great football program, and now they don't. Do we know any freshmen at Alabama this year? It's a shame they got to the party late.
They're number 7 in the country.
The keg, that's a bad year over there. The keg.
Oh, okay.
The kegs floated. The food's gone. The band quit. I mean, the party's over. First class, second class, no class. Brought to you by Supreme, right?
Let them be eliminated from the playoff first, Charlie.
Give me about a month.
They're in the playoff if they win. If they're in now.
Yeah. Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. Try the new parboiled rice, now available wherever you get rice. Jimmy, it's a favorite of yours. Closest thing to restaurant grade rice.
It is. I mean, you're trying to figure out how do they get that rice. Man, my rice at boil at home is just not the same quality. Doesn't have that look. Maybe got a little bit more residue before you got to wash it off. And it still doesn't, not as big, not as firm as that restaurant rice. It's because the parboiled rice. I don't use any other rice now. You go to Supreme, wherever you find your Supreme rice, in the rice department. It's there. Pretty much every Baton Rouge area restaurant. And you pick up the parboiled rice. It really, you'll be blown away how much higher quality it is than what you've been using. So the parboiled rice, it's my favorite. Check it out from Supreme Rice.
And a Climate Smart program reducing methane emissions and water conservation, part of all of the Supreme Rice family. For more information, go to information at SupremeRice.com. Take a break. Live at lunch from Doe's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
The Pierre Port store and the Thibodeau store. If you're making some improvements around your house, making some repairs, let the experts there at those stores walk you through your projects, because you're going to be able to save some money if you do it yourself and don't hire a contractor, but you may not know what you're doing. Certainly the case for me. So rather than relying on a YouTube video, have them walk you through so you won't waste time and money. You're trying to save time and money. So do it through the professionals at the Pierre Port store and the Thibodeau store. All of the supplies that you're going to need, including lumber, can be delivered from these stores. So go to ThibodeauStore.com to get that. Plus the extras, tons of grills, big green egg cookers, custom-made cypress furniture, and lots of fishing gear, all down at the Thibodeau store. 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodeau, and online it's ThibodeauStore.com.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
We return here at Doe's Eat Place live at lunch. This is a question that's been coming up more and more, Jimmy. I want to get your thoughts on it. I get asked at least once a post game that about what Garrett Nussmeier will do next year, and I answered it most recently like this. I said, I don't, kind of channeling what Mike Lombardi told us last year when we were talking about Jaden Daniels. He said, and I think we had him on in late October. It was definitely before the Florida game. Late October, early November. I don't remember exactly. I think it was before the Alabama game. But I remember what Lombardi said. He says, I don't want to look at the Army film at all. I want to look at the Alabama film, 5 to 10 times. So what I've been saying about Nussmeier is, I'm not going to look at the Nichols film if I'm an NFL guy. I'm not going to look at the Nichols film all that long. I'm not going to look at South Alabama. Might not even look at UCLA all that much. Going to look at Ole Miss a lot. Going to look at South Carolina a lot. Going to look at USC. But these 6 games that they have left to play are the ones that are going to be under the microscope as well. So right now, ESPN's got their latest in the quarterback rankings for the draft.
Oh, let me guess.
And so they have a top 14. We don't have to go that far. I'll tell you right now. Top 13. He's not. He's
not
in
the top 14.
He's not. He is in the top 14, but you don't have to go down that far. He's in the top 10. So let me see if you can pick him. How you would take him, or where you think that ESPN's got him ranked. The quarterbacks that are eligible for next year's NFL draft. Where would you have? And I'll give you the list if you want to sort them out. But you know the names.
The four that got up there is Ewers, Sanders, Ward, and Beck. And I think they'll throw Milroe in there, although I've got that's I mean, I'm not so sure about that. I mean, he's got a ways to go, but he has improved his passing. We know he can run. So, but anyway, after that, Charlie, I like him a little bit better than Dart. He's got more arm talent, I think, but Dart's got reps, man. Dart's in a very quarterback-friendly system that very few quarterbacks, if any, have come out of that. What quarterback has come out of the Kiffin system and done anything in the pros? None.
If you're not counting. I know you're not going to count him, so you're not going to count Jalen Hurts, right? From what he did at Alabama, you're going to give Lincoln Riley the credit for that.
No.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
No, he's probably. I mean, the way these things go, 6 to 10.
Okay, you had the first five right. Okay, you had them a little out of order, but you got them right. The top five: Shadur Sanders, Cam Ward, Carson Beck, Jalen Milroe, and Quinn Ewers.
See, I have Milroe the fifth. I have the fifth. I've got those other four ahead of him.
I do too. I do.
But
too.
I can, hey, look. I mean, Anthony Richardson went where?
4.
Okay, he throws the ball better than Richardson.
Yes,
at this stage,
he does. He does.
That's why he starts, man.
That's the.
I mean, what Purdy have over Trubisky? What does Richardson? What do they have over Richardson? Get some more starts, man.
They have Garrett Nussmeier 6th behind the 5 that I just gave
I like him. But he needs starts. Did he prove that on Saturday night?
Yes, and starts is essentially the difference between Nussmeier and Ewers. They're the same size. Their arm strength is very comparable. Ewers has started probably, I'm doing this out of my head, but probably somewhere in the area of 15 to 18 more games than Nussmeier has. But if you look at them physically, their ability to throw the football and a lot of those other things, there's not a ton of difference.
I think that's very fair.
They're almost exactly the same size.
He's picking up a little bit of it, but Ewers throws a little bit off at times off his back foot too. I mean, LSU certainly played a tougher schedule this year than Texas, tougher defenses.
Yeah,
no doubt about that.
They're rating Ewers as a late day 1, early day 2 pick, which is as late as I've seen him projected. I've seen him projected. This is ESPN. This is Jordan Reed.
Okay. Okay. It's just one guy.
Yeah, it's just one guy. It's just one guy. That's the latest I've seen him. That's the latest I've seen him.
You can't get money down on that.
No, you cannot.
I mean, I'll take him day 1.
I've seen him. I've seen him in way
That's
more
a joke.
I've seen him in way more top 5s overall than I've seen him outside of the first round.
Yes.
Now, could I see him? He's had the injury. It's cost him a couple of games. I don't think it's a big deal. No. Could I see him sliding into that kind of where Mac Jones went, which I think was 15th in the first round? I could see that happening. Okay, we've seen better quarterbacks than him slide into the second 10. Mahomes did. Okay, but I don't think he gets much past that. Nussmeier is rated as an early to mid day 2. So this means that you are a second round pick at this point.
Quinn Ewers is co-favorite to be taken number 1 with Carson Beck. Plus 600. It's about 600 now. But my point is, he's top 10, dude.
There's no question in my mind that he's going to. Like I said, if he slips out 11 to 15 at the most.
You know his 8th choice to be taken number 1?
8th choice to be taken, Travis Hunter?
Will Campbell. Just telling you what the odds are.
Yeah. He had a couple of rough games. Now he was great on Saturday night. He was back to the top. He had a rough game against South Carolina, but Will Campbell's still going to go as a very high pick. They've got Drew Allar right behind Nussmeier, who is considerably bigger, but I don't know is any better.
One of the picks was like kind of at the end of regulation. Mm-hmm. Was like a Hail Mary, but he had 2 other picks in the game, and that's
who he looks like to me.
But that's what Nussmeier had.
Yeah,
Saturday.
Right.
I mean,
physically, who Allar looks like to me at that point in his career. He looks like Joe Flacco. If Flacco had that gigantic size, not a whole lot of mobility, bazooka arm, and
who's the other big arm they had that came out of there? It was highly recruited, but his mobility was limited. Yeah,
Kerry Collins.
No,
you're not going back that far.
Recently,
I got to think about that for a second. Because Clifford was the quarterback there for 6 years or whatever. And then they got Jackson Dart at number 8. And they project him as a mid to late day 2, which means that you are a 3rd-round pick. So that's where they've got
Dart's
him.
got toughness. Dart's, I don't think he has the arm talent Nussmeier does. He got a lot more reps, though. And, again, you got to give quarterbacks don't translate well to the NFL.
You answered exactly the way I thought you would and exactly the way I would have, because what are we talking about with these quarterbacks that are rated considerably higher, okay, to Nussmeier? What does he lack? Reps. Well, that's why you come back. Mm-hmm. If you've got enough ability to be a first-round pick and the scouts are telling you, hey, Ewers is the same quarterback as you a year ago, or Carson Beck is the same quarterback as you were a year ago, then if you come back, then there's a real reason to come back. If you feel like you can move yourself from the beginning of round 2 to the beginning of round 1. And if you're a quarterback, your upward mobility is limitless. We've seen the last 2 guys come here as late-round picks, and the extra year put them into the top 2 in the draft. I don't know what Nussmeier ultimately decides, and, you do have the issue that you're going to replace almost the entire starting offensive line, and you got to take that into consideration for next year. But if your issue with Garrett Nussmeier is just reps, if that's what the NFL tells him, then maybe you come back. I don't know. I think it's a close call right now. If I had to pick it one way or the other, I'd say right now.
How many years has he been here? This is year
4.
This is year 4.
This is 4.
Got the itch. I mean, but
both of those last 2 guys went into their 5th year.
The reps now is your number one your prize recruiter, your class cool with this? I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean that's what I mean.
If I were Underwood, I would want. I got no idea what he's thinking. He's been very, very steadfast in his commitment to LSU without knowing what Nussmeier is going to do. I wouldn't think it would be a bad thing to watch for a year. It will probably accelerate your development rather than if you get thrown in behind a brand-new offensive line next year. I mean, a brand-new offensive line. I would almost rather, hey, let me learn this a little bit. I don't know if that's what he's thinking.
The starts are big. It's because they're not. If you plan on getting drafted high, they're not going to have a whole lot of patience with you. They're going to throw you in. Most quarterbacks. Nick Saban on Hard Knocks? He went and told his old player, the head coach of the Bears. He said, "Man, it's just the expectation level of these young quarterbacks. This is hard to do. This is why so many of them fail. They're put in a position to fail. He needs more. He could get drafted a certain way. He'll get drafted more higher if he comes back. Now he's behind a new offensive line. He loses both tackles
and both the guards. This is a brand new group next year outside of the center who's not having a very good year. So I don't know. It's a tough call. It's not a call I can make with a lot of certainty right now. As far as Underwood goes, he sits out the first year and he starts his sophomore and junior year. You're talking about between 25 and 30 starts. You'll have if he's going to go to the top of the draft board,
you can even start him like they did, and Renner wins real quick, a half and a half. I mean, you can play him.
You can get some play.
There's no doubt, but
he can always play for you.
But I'm sorry. I mean, it's crazy. Sure, you're going to play a 5th-year gear with a guy with starting experience who's a pro quarterback, as opposed to the freshman or even like Arch Manning. Sure, it's Ewer's job. Sure, it's Nussmeier's job, but you might lose him.
Yeah, right.
You're one play away. They had to guarantee Avery Johnson in his 2nd year he was going to be started. That's why Will Howard pushed out the way.
Yeah.
They nudged him out, and so, but I don't. It's the way it's played. I mean, that guy. You don't think he's got everybody in the country that you think he got some that said, "No, we'll start you now."
A lot of them. And with a hefty price tag, too.
Don't forget our friends at Electric Man. We are here to help at Electric Man. Your safety is our priority. Know more about our health protocols against the spread of the virus as well. We come in. We're all certified and reach all requirements when we come into your home. It's real easy. You schedule your appointment. Just go to electricmanbatonrouge.com and there we go, man. We'll get on to it. Tell you when we're coming over, give you a tight window. And, man, they are right within that tight window. They're not going to hold you hostage and waiting on at the house all day long. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, provide quality service. And you can get service calls for as low as $79 a call. Installations, lighting. How about electrical safety? Safety is always our top priority at Electric Man. Whether it's temper-resistant receptacles, ground fault circuit interrupter outlets, arc fault circuit interrupter outlets, or even USB outlets, we have you covered at Electric Man. ElectricManBatonRouge.com. ElectricManBatonRouge.com.
Live at Doe's, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Flacco
Still
was,
at time.
Flacco in the Super Bowl in New Orleans made one for sure on 3rd down. A couple plays with his legs. He was,
And we were watching, was it Sunday before last, where he takes off, and it's like, what are you doing, man? You're a senior citizen. What are you doing running like that? And he ended up running like 15 yards, which he probably hadn't done.
Well, where would you rank him right now? 32 quarterbacks that started this weekend.
In mobility?
No.
Oh, in terms of just being a quarterback, I don't know.
But guess what?
16, 18.
So they need to show that to Nussmeier.
Yeah.
No, there's a time
Right
every
there.
now. We need to move the chains, get down.
Right.
I mean, asking you taking a hit, but when there's that much room, it's okay.
I don't remember Flacco at Delaware. I know he transferred from Pitt. I remember him as a rookie. He got into Baltimore's lineup about halfway through his rookie season, I think, if I remember right.
Oh, okay.
He got in there fairly early, and he, for as big as he is, I mean, Flacco's 6'6", probably 250.
He's as big as
a very big guy.
He's Jamarcus Russell.
He
big.
could move a little bit at the beginning of his career. He a little bit for somebody as big as he was. Hey, I'm glad Steve Shaw listens to the show. The NCAA's secretary, rules editor, rules czar. So the NCAA is looking into a way to fix the loophole that Oregon took advantage of the other night. So we're happy to help here. Anytime that we can.
Dan Lanning's working though.
Yeah,
that's what you do.
Yeah, exactly. I got no problem with him, working the system. So
do you think if they did that, how much are they talking about okay, if we're up 2 and we can go down, do we go down? Do we go down with, okay, if they're going to have about a minute left on the clock, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, they're doing it. Well, if you can go down and the game's over at one point, that's just killing. We're not doing it. Or they have that little – he wasn't asked about that. Tessitore is too busy screaming and hollering and everything. They didn't even mention it.
No, they didn't. I think with this 12-man on the field thing, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to have unintended consequences with, hey, we just accidentally had 12 people on the field. Should we really be penalized 15 yards for this? What if they're looking at 4th and 12? And I think the issue is time. It's not yardage. Because what Lanning is trying to do here is he's trying to milk clock. The yards are less important to him than the seconds at that point. I think if you looked into some scenario, I'm doing this off the top of my head, that restored the clock to its original before the play, to its original time before the play. Like, you want to do this, it's 5 yards, and the clock's going back to 10 seconds. Now,
yes.
So now, what are there unintended consequences? That is
the best way in the spirit of the rule. They just don't. That's giving them a lot of credit there.
Yeah, and
because
we've never seen
because
this.
what are you trying to do? You're trying to steal a play. You're trying to we're gonna put. I mean, if I'm landing, I'm like, oh, yep, you got. Well, we had a mistake on that play too. We meant to have 14 players on the field.
Right, we want to make damn sure we stopped it before
Yes.
we got there.
We're gonna run the same amount of time off.
I don't know if this scenario is going to come up twice a year in college football, where 4 seconds and 5 yards really matters, and it
The
really
last
mattered in
minute.
this.
Well, it's going to happen. It's going to be late, which is just seconds to go. But you can't say with 30. You say the last minute. You can say last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You could, but I mean, you don't want to give up anything over 20 seconds. You don't want to give up just 5 yards.
Yeah.
For 6 seconds of a play, 5 to 6 seconds.
And you're exactly right. If this happens in a game between UTEP and New Mexico State, who the hell cares? But it happened in Oregon and Ohio State.
But I mean, he's coaching. Can't.
We got on him for game management last year. Give him credit for game in the system.
Charlie, you can grow.
Yes, I'm getting better.
You can grow.
I've grown like nobody's business. I've grown a little too big.
35 years. I'm still trying to get the hang of it. So, anyway, just trying to. don't forget our friends over at Total Maintenance. Total Maintenance. My man, Lucas Ragusa, been doing stuff with Lucas for a long, long time. Yes, indeed. Man, Lucas, big Saints fan as well. How about Sean Payton coming back to the Dome this weekend? You know, at Total Maintenance, we are one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest air conditioner and heating companies, founded in 1980. Yes, indeed. Factory authorized dealer for Carrier, American Standard, Daikin, and Rheem products. For generators, we're Generac and Cummings factory authorized dealers. We have membership programs that cover all of the services we offer with discounts and extended warranties. Going up. And we'll alert you. You got so much stuff going on. I don't know when it's time to get the AC serviced or not, but we're going to alert you so we can come out, make sure that it's running at its optimum efficiency, lower monthly bills, and also extend the lifetime of your unit. I mean, you bring your car in to get your oil changed, huh? I mean, come on. You got to get your AC unit mentioned. If you got a lawnmower around it, if you mow the grass around it, it's going to get dirty and clogged up. Also, mention my name, Jimmy Ott, and half-off diagnostics, including after-hours, holidays, and weekends as well. And you one-time heater or AC visit, you mention my name, or 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Normally $179. Going to remove that one. It's going to be $79 instead of $179. Service today, every day, Total Maintenance. We are Total Maintenance. 2 Baton Rouge and New Orleans offices, but in Baton Rouge, it's 480-1000, 480-1000. Total Maintenance.
Live at Doe's Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Hanny from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Saints have made a move. They've signed wide receiver Dante Pettis to the practice squad. I only mention it because they are worried about Rashid Shaheed. He has what they're calling a concerning knee injury, and the hits just keep on coming down in New Orleans. Every time I say there's somebody they just can't afford to lose, they seem to lose somebody that's whoever's next on the list. I mean, if McCoy and Carr were up at the top of the list, Shaheed and Olave, then Shaheed was pretty high up that list too. And now they are concerned about this knee injury. I don't know what to say. They didn't have enough wide receivers with him, much less without him.
Well, Olave and Surtain should be out.
Right, with the concussion protocol, sure.
There's no such thing as a protocol if you go from Sunday to Thursday and you're still playing. So I know they're different levels and they could extend it, but that's a given. Both of them would be out. It'd be reminds you of that. Remember that Miami game when your boy from Notre Dame started?
Ian Book.
Yeah.
I
mean,
Rattler
certainly got more. Look, Rattler I thought was fine. I thought was, everything considering. I mean, you want to improve a little bit with every start, but I thought he exceeded my expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So now they certainly adjusted and they rushed him. in the second half, and they didn't score a point. But I thought he was not the –
No, he wasn't the problem. But God bless if you're asking him to go with offensive linemen 7, 8, 9,
in the
and
NFL?
receivers 3, 4, and 5.
How long have you been playing this league?
Oh,
Long
90,
time.
90 years, something.
Fifth time in the history of the NFL, team gave up 300 passing, 275 rushing. Fifth time.
That's not a lot of times.
That's his expertise. That's your future Chuck Noll. Don't worry, they're coming. Steelers are coming. JoJo Green coming through there. LC Greenwood, Swan, and Stallworth.
Sean Payton, Return of the King on Thursday night. Tomorrow where it snows, thanks to the folks here at Doe's. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.